Uh, Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the class Buddhism 408, Buddhist Philosophy. I hope everyone is doing great with your studies. I received your responses to the homework assignments, some of you. It looks okay. And today is the day, July 25th, 2022. I think our third session, third week. So now we have been looking at the Buddhist philosophy, the basis, and prior to Buddhism, what type of philosophical background there was in India. And also today, the third week, we have our topic is the causality. What do you mean by causality? Cause and effect. One of the very interesting things about Buddhism is that Buddhism recognizes that everything happens according to a certain pattern of cause. And everything could be traced back to a certain cause. There is causal relationship between among any occurrences. You cannot say that things happen accidentally. It looks like accidents, but if you analyze it in reality, what you see is there is some cause behind it. So this kind of theory in Buddhism talks about the causal relationship of everything. When I say everything, it does not mean that only physical things. Physical things as well as psychological, moral, social, whatever. In anything in the world, you can see the causal relationship. In Pali, the word is hetu pachaya. Hetu means cause. So in any given incident, you can be, it could be analyzed into causal links. That is the central teaching of Buddhism. When I say central teaching, it means it is the most important teaching in Buddhist philosophy. Because, at the time of the Buddha, there were some other philosophers who talked about, who explained the way it is in this world, how this world came into existence, why things happen in this way. Why do we have suffering and things like that? Is there any sort of liberation? Is there any sort of salvation, freedom from what we have right now, suffering? So in order to answer these questions, different philosophers at the time, they came along with different theories. Some of the philosophers, they emphasize that things happen because it ought to be so. They should happen so. That's why they happen like that. It's like determinism. It is deterministic. It is determined already, so you cannot do anything. So things happen that way. If you fall on the ground, or if you met with an accident on the freeway, it is determined so. You have no, you cannot say anything about it. It is determined. Before, long time ago, it has been determined that you have to meet with an accident today, such and such a time. That type of idea. It is determinism. So there were some philosophers explaining things in terms of deterministic ideas. Things happen according to predetermination. And again, some people believe that, some philosophers explain that things happen in our life, in this society, in this world, things happen because of the Creator's wish. The world is created by an all-powerful being. So his wish is such that things should happen this way. It is also kind of determinism. Things should happen according to the wish of the Creator. I don't know, it's up to you to decide whether it is right or wrong. Even today, people believe so. Things happen according to the wish of the Creator. That over there, you don't see any sort of causal relationship. There is causal relationship, but only one cause. The Creator, things happen this way. Because of the wish of the Creator, you suffer or you gain happiness. That kind of thing. And then there were another sort of philosophers during that time who emphasized that things happen naturally. That's the natural way. Like, say, for instance, if you have a mango tree, a mango seed can give rise to only mango tree. Any other seed gives rise to the same type of plant. So that is also kind of a causal relationship. You can see some causal mango seed giving rise to mango tree, right? Good deeds that you do bear good results, something like that. So in this way, there were many ideas about causality during the time of the Buddha. And in search of some, the Buddha left the palace. He renounced his family life in search of truth, or in search of everlasting happiness. Understand? We were discussing about this thing. He wanted to find a solution, lasting solution for the problem of suffering. Because he understood that in the palace, even though he had all kinds of luxuries, even though he had all kinds of things in life, life is not satisfactory. So there should be some way that he can reach that status, that you can reach the, what you may call the freedom from that unsatisfactoriness, that suffering. That was the Siddhartha Gautama's main purpose of leaving the palace, renunciation. So when he was in search of that happiness, when he was in search of that reality, he came along with this theory, what we may call causality. He analyzed things in his own mind, in his own meditation. He analyzed things. He went back to as far as he could go to analyze things, to see the causal relationship between the things. And he came up with this new theory, Buddhist causality, we call it today, or Paticca Samuppada, theory of dependent origination. Theory of dependent origination. Everything depends on everything else. Nothing exists by itself. In this world, nothing can exist by itself. Everything has to depend on something else. Just imagine your life. You might think that you are so powerful. I have money, I have everything, I have food, I have shelter, I have all kinds of things. So why should I worry about others? But if you analyze it, your independent nature is dependent on many other factors. Many other factors. How come you find food if the other people don't provide you food? If the other people don't produce food, how come you say, I am independent, I have all kinds of things? No. So this world is a, what you may call a web, a network, where everyone is connected in many different ways. Everything and everyone is connected in many different ways. Look at the beauty of this teaching. When you say that I am independent, Buddhism says no, you cannot be independent. You cannot say that you are independent because you are dependent. That is right. If you say you are independent, that is wrong. If you say I'm dependent on everything else, that is right. How come you breathe? How come you breathe to the lower? If you go to the lowest level, if there is no good air, how can you breathe good air? Good air is produced where? When you protect environment, when you have good trees and all that, good air is there. See, in that way, everything is connected. So Buddha goes on to say that to that extent we are connected. To what extent? The air that I breathe in is the air that you breathe out. Understand this thing. The air that I breathe in is the same air that you breathe out. If you smoke, be careful. Understand what I mean? So to that extent, we are interconnected. So this philosophy, Buddhist theory of causality, goes into such in-depth details and discusses that the whole world is dependent on everything else, everyone else. When we say whole world, it is psychological, physical, as well as moral, you name it. Everything is connected. Something that happens in New York today, let's say in the stock market, if it crashes today in New York, the ripples of that incident goes all with the way across the world. It affects the things in the world. To that extent, we are interconnected. I'm just giving you a modern example. Buddha did not talk about stock market. Buddhism teaches that the theory is causality theory. When you talk about causal relationship of things, you have to understand that things are like that. So why did the Buddha come along with this type of theory? Can you imagine? Why did he come up with this type of theory? Because he wanted to find, as I told you, find the truth. how to reach happiness. In order to reach happiness, you have to analyze how my suffering is created. How my suffering is created. When you analyze that thing, you go back to the original place where suffering begins. Suffering begins because of my craving, not because of the things that are around me now, right now, maybe, but if you go deep, you will find the roots of our suffering is in craving, in our, what you may call tanha, craving. So in that way, when he was analyzing the things, he came up with this theory. So in early Buddhist teaching, in early Buddhist philosophy, in the Pali Canon, you find in many places, in 4 sentences, the Buddha gives, Buddha introduces this theory. He says, when this is present, that comes to be. Please follow me, okay? When this is present, that comes to be. From the arising of this, that arises. Okay, 2. When this is present, that arises. When there is mango seed, mango tree, mango plant arises. Something like that. And then from the arising of this, that arises. From the arising of this, that arises. And the other way it says that when there is absent, when this is absent, that does not come to be. When this is absent, that does not come to be. That does not arise. On the cessation of this, that ceases. On the cessation of this, that ceases. You know the word cessation, right? Stopping. Cease means stopping. When you stop this thing, that stops. That means when you stop the cause, when you wipe out or eradicate the cause, the effect is stopped, ceases, something like that. So this is the formula actually. This is the formula in Buddhism, which discusses the, what you may call the causality. Paticca samuppada in Pali word, dependent origination in other words. So there you find the theory. When this is, that arises. When this is present, that is present. See the causal relationship. You cannot say that suffering is there because of something else. When you have craving, suffering arises. When you stop craving, suffering does not arise. When this is absent, that is absent, right? It's very easy to understand in that way. So in this way, everything is dependent on everything else. When today, now this is daytime, when day is there, that means night is also there, darkness is also there. When the light is, it means there is darkness too. When the cessation of darkness, light arises, day arises. When there is night or darkness, it means that there is light too. Right? Something like that. So I don't want to confuse you thinking, but if you can do little think about this thing, everything is like this. Everything is causally connected. There should be causal relationship between anything, any psychological things too. That is the important thing. When you think bad, if you have bad thoughts, say for instance, if you attack your friend out of fury, you got angry, you got mad, and then you could not control your anger, and you attack your friend. Now that is over. And if you analyze this, why did I attack my friend? If you analyze it, if you go back the causal chain, you see, oh, my anger made me attack my friend. In that way, when there is anger, the result, the effect of anger may be, in this case, attacking your friend. When anger is present, in this case, okay, attack is also present, something like that. So in this way, in this world, you should be able to analyze anything based on this formula. So this is very famous in Buddhism, the basic idea of causality. Based on this causal relationship theory or Paticcasamuppada, Buddhism discusses everything. It does not, even in the Four Noble Truths, I think in one of our classes in the future, we will be discussing about it. The Buddhism explains that life is suffering, right? If you say life is suffering, there should be a cause. There should be some reason for suffering, right? Cause. Then the Buddhism says the cause of suffering is what? Craving. There should be a reason for craving too, right? That way you can analyze things back to the origin, and in that way you can find the, you can see the causal connection between things. So in this way, Buddhism talks about causality. Without causes, nothing happens. So everything has a cause. Any effect, any results in the world, in your life, in the social system, in any given occurrence, there is a cause behind it. It is not that God made these things. It is not predetermined by some power. It's not totally naturalistic, right? Things happen because it should happen that way. No, there is some cause, there is some. Why? When you analyze things in this way, you get the courage to come to a decision. Oh, I have to find out the cause of my suffering. I have to find out the cause for this thing. And then, as the theory says, if this is not present, if this is absent, the other aspect is also absent. So you should try to make this end absent, right? If there is suffering, so you have to find out the cause of suffering. The cause of suffering is craving. So when there is no craving, no suffering. Like that, Buddhism teaches causal relationship in this way. And the Buddha, he introduces this theory to everything in the society. And in one of the incidents, he says, in early Buddhism, let's say, for instance, there is social unrest, inequality in the society, there's social unrest. Why that thing happens? And he goes back to the causal relationship, and he says, it is because of human beings craving. They are craving, things happen that way. And according in other way, why poverty exists in this society? You know, in the world now, there are many millions of people who are under the poverty level. Why poverty exists in the world? And Buddhism says it is because that people who ought to make their living, when they have no source of income, when they cannot make their living, poverty exists. When there is inequality in the society, poverty exists. So in that way, here the Buddhism applies this theory to many different aspects. So in that sense, causality in Buddhism is one of the core teachings, and it's a highly philosophical teaching, and it could apply, we could apply this teaching into any day-to-day activities of our life, right? In that sense, it becomes central theory of Buddhism. So with that, I wind up today's class, and you can read the text, the third chapter, I think the third chapter of the text on causality, and you can elaborate, you can expand your understanding, widen your knowledge on that thing, or you can go online and just do little research on Buddhist causality, Buddhist theory of causality, that will enhance your knowledge. So this is just an introduction. So if you are interested in expanding your understanding, do that. So, and that winds up our lecture. So please, as I tell every day, submit your homework before the end of the week, before the next class, so that you can get your grades without trouble. Okay. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful week. Thank you.